Facts in 92.3 Nigeria Info. I'm Sam Oracle Chinedu. For this hour, we're diving back into politics. Rivers Assembly condemns Fubara's directive on local government leadership. Now, the Rivers State House of Assembly has given Governor Similai Fubara 48 hours to present the 2025 budget to lawmakers. They made this known during a plenary at the Rivers State House of Assembly quarters today. The motion was moved by Deputy Speaker Domle Mao. In his remarks, Speaker Martin Amehule condemned Governor Fubara's directive that heads of local government administration should take charge of the council, saying it is an illegality and against the Supreme Court's decision. That's the part of the conversation that we are focused on. Now, recall that the Rivers State Governor had directed local government chairmen to formally hand over to heads of local government administration until elections are conducted. Governor Fubara gave the directive in a statewide broadcast on Sunday following the Supreme Court judgment declaring October 5th, 2024 local government election null and void. Also, if you remember, former chairman of the Ikwerre local government area, Samuel Wanosike, is insisting that he is still the chairman of the council following the Supreme Court judgment. So there are lots of controversies, confusions connected to the local government issue. And of course, to bring clarity to it, we have a legal practitioner, Dr. Felix Biiragbara. He is a constitutional lawyer, Department of Legal Studies, University of Port Harcourt, and he joins us via the phone. Thank you, Dr. Felix, for joining us.
Thank you, my brother. Good evening, and good evening to our listeners.
Good evening. Okay, so while we don't have the certified copy of the Supreme Court ruling yet, I still have to ask, does the Supreme Court's position imply automatic reinstatement of former local government chairmen, or does it merely void the October 5 election? I said, does the Supreme Court's ruling simply void the election of October 5, or does it imply that former local government chairmen will be reinstated?
Okay, so thank you very much. Let me correct an impression, first of all. So
okay.
in introducing me, you said I'm of the Department of Legal Studies, University of Port Harcourt. So that's not correct. I'm of the Faculty of Law, I'm the Department of Public Law, Faculty of Law, University of Port Harcourt.
Okay. Apologies for that.
So thank you very much.
All right.
Yes, so having taken that, so I'll go into the question that you just asked regarding what was the key position of the Supreme Court judgment of Friday. You have admitted that we have not seen the certified true copy or copies of the two separate judgments in the two separate appeals. And so we may not go too far in commenting on that judgment insofar as we have not read the details of the judgment.
Yeah.
So by the time the details of the judgment are made available to us, by the time it is in the public domain, and we are able to study what that judgment actually decides, and the reliefs or orders granted, or if there are consequential orders, by the time we are able to go through all of that, that is when we can come up with a position as to what that judgment says. But if what has been reported so far, if what appears to have been considered to by both sides of the divide is true, then it does appear that what the Supreme Court did was to set aside or nullify the election, local government election conducted on 5th October 2024. It seems that is only what the Supreme Court did, because it does not appear that any other thing was in issue. It does not appear that the former local government chairmen, those who were ousted by that election, it does not appear that they made any claim in that particular suit leading to the appeal. It appears it was the issue of that complying with the process. Such as release of voters register or using a correct voters register, whether the provisions of the law were followed in conducting the election. It appears that was what led to the dispute between the parties that led the people who went to court to go to court, leading to the orders granted by the Federal High Court, which were that election should not be, the INEC should not release voters register to RISIEC to conduct the election. The security agencies should not provide security for the conduct of that election. It seems that is the foundation of this judgment of the Supreme Court. So that was what was in contest at the trial court of the Federal High Court. So it was that order that I am sure the government of Rivers State appealed against, which the Court of Appeal determined in favor of Rivers State government, but basically by looking at the issue of jurisdiction and also to hold that the conduct of local government election is not subject to the provisions of the Electoral Act. I think that's what I read around that time. And so, forming the basis, so the judgment of the Court of Appeal was basically that the court in Abuja did not have jurisdiction over the conduct of the local government election in Rivers State, and secondly, that the conduct of a local government election was firmly within the remit of the state law, and so the Electoral Act did not actually govern the conduct of local government elections. I think those were the two key bases for the decision of the Court of Appeal, which allowed the appeal of the governor and nullified or set aside the judgment of the Federal High Court. So it was from this decision that a further appeal went to the Supreme Court. And what I understand from what we have seen so far is that the Supreme Court nullified that election on the ground that certain provisions of the Electoral Act were not complied with. So if that is the case, it means that the only order or relief the court granted, subject to when we are going to have the certified copy of that judgment available, and be able to see if beyond this order there was another relief granted by the Supreme Court or any consequential order granted by the Supreme Court. But it does appear that so far what the Supreme Court did was just to nullify that election, and did not go as far as ordering that those who were in that office before that election was conducted should return to the office. So I do not think that on the basis of what has been made available to us so far, that there is, because even those who said so, even those who are saying that they are now entitled to resume their offices in the local government based on this decision, they are not even saying there was any pronouncement by the Supreme Court. I listened to some of them on the radio. I listened to some of them on channel TV and all of that live. They did not also say Supreme Court said so in any of the portions of the judgment. They merely said that they are going to rely on the Rivers State Local Government Amendment Law, which was passed into law by the House of Assembly presided over by Right Honorable Martin Chike Amehule. So they are saying that judgment is still alive, and that since that judgment is still alive, and the Supreme Court has now recognized Martin Amehule as the speaker, and so that law was validly passed. The governor's veto to that bill was validly overridden, and as a result of that extension, they are still entitled to continue in the office. So they didn't say Supreme Court said they should resume their seat or they should be reinstated. They only relied on the provisions of the law that elongated their tenure. Yeah. So I don't think there's any portion of the Supreme Court judgment that granted that aspect of the relief they are people are now claiming.
Okay. We have a break coming up. After the break, we continue conversations. Please stay with us.
Okay.
Hard Facts and 92.3 Nigeria Info. Sam Oracle Chinedu here. We're talking about the Rivers Assembly condemning the governor's directive on local government leadership. This is as the Speaker of the House, Martin Amehule, condemned Governor Fubara's directive that heads of local government administration should take charge of the councils. And now we're having conversations around the legal framework. What exactly is provided in the Constitution as to the handover of power at the local government level when things like this happen? My guest is still on the phone. He's Dr. Felix Biiragbara. He's a constitutional lawyer from the Faculty of Law, Uniport. You're welcome once again, sir.
Thank you, my brother. Yes.
All right. So, now that we know as much as we do and we're waiting for the certified copy to know better, what is the legal procedure? What's the legal framework about when an election at the local government level is voided? How is the handover of power normally handled?
Okay. So the Supreme Court in the Attorney General of the Federation and the Attorney General of the 36 states of the Federation laid down the issue of the governance of local government councils in Nigeria in its well-considered judgment delivered on the 11th of July 2024. And that judgment clearly decided that there's no provision for any other placeholder in the governance of a local government council. Because the decision emphasized what Section 7 sub 1 of the Constitution has provided for, that the only acceptable form of local government administration in Nigeria is one that is piloted by democratically elected local government council. That is personnel that emerge through the process of democratic election. So local government council headed or presided over by head of local government administration, or by sole administrator, or by caretaker committee, or by whatever name called is no longer acceptable. And of course, you know that decision went beyond what used to be the law, because that's not the first decision that was upholding the requirement by the Constitution that local government councils in Nigeria must emerge through democratic means. There have been myriads of decisions that have laid down the same rules that caretaker committees or government by appointed officers or selected officers were not acceptable under the Constitution.
Okay.
But so this decision of the Supreme Court of last year went a step further to add a new dimension. And what is that dimension? That dimension is that if any state goes ahead, if any governor of a state or state government goes ahead to still continue the process of appointing persons to man local government councils in the name of caretaker, in the name of sole administrator, in the name of head of personnel, local government personnel, and all of that of local government, then the federal government will be entitled to withhold the allocations accruing to that local government or accruing to that state, according to the local government affected in that state, to withhold it from them. So using that position as our benchmark, it appears to me that the governor of Rivers State cannot. So I want to understand his directive that the head of local government administration should take charge of local government councils in Rivers State until fresh elections are conducted. I want to understand that directive as merely being in charge of the civil servants in that local government, but not to run the affairs of the local government in the manner that the chairman and the councillors would have done. I don't want to understand that directive to be so. If that is the purport of that directive, if that's the import of that directive, then it will run clearly foul of Section 7 of 1 of the Constitution and also the judgment of the Supreme Court in Attorney General of the Federation and Attorney General of the 36 states. So if the directive is that take charge of the local government, maybe be in charge of the staff, the civil servants, That is the function of the head of local government administration. So there is nothing, if it is not about the fact that the head of local government personnel, head of local government administration will receive the funds belonging to local government, we pass the budget of local government, we will execute projects on behalf of local government, we make bylaws on behalf of local government, and carry out functions that are meant for local government councils. If that is not what the governor intends, it is just about taking charge of the administration of local government by paying workers whenever it is time to pay the civil servants, and maybe disciplining them, and maybe ensuring that they are doing their administrative work and all of that. If that's all the governor is directing the head of local government administration to do, then I do not think that would be unconstitutional or illegal or be running foul of any law.
Okay.
But if it is that the head of local government administration should do what they used to do before, what governor used to direct them to do before the Supreme Court judgment, namely to take over the affairs and functions of local government areas, extend the whole monument for local government, carry out all the things that elected chairmen and councillors should do, then that will be clearly against the Constitution. And I'm afraid there will be no constitutional or legal support for such action.
Okay, Dr. Biiragbara, should the Supreme Court not have considered the fact that there can be no caretaker or placeholder arrangement in ruling against the local government elections? Should that not have been a consideration on their table before nullifying those elections?
I do not think that I do not think that should be a factor. The law is clear that if the Constitution or any statute has prescribed the manner, the mode, the method, or procedure by which a thing should be done, that if that thing is done by any other method other than the one recommended by the Constitution or by statute, that other mode of achieving that thing will no longer be recognized by the law, and there will be no sentiment about that. So if the Supreme Court comes to the conclusion that certain provisions of the law were not complied with in conducting that election, there will be no other consideration, there will be no sentiment attached to the conclusion the Supreme Court will reach, and even the consequential order the court will make by taking into conclusion the fact that there will be vacancy.
Okay.
I do not think that that ought to have been factored in by the Supreme Court when deciding or when giving the judgment.
Well, clearly that has created a lacuna, which is exactly why this conversation is happening. So what do we do now? Because what the governor has done, the House has already said is illegal. But I don't know if the House can now recommend what is legal. To what extent can the House of Assembly intervene on this matter?
I do not think that as it stands today, to the best of my knowledge and within the limit of what I know about the law, the state of the law as it stands today, with respect to the administration of local government councils, I do not think there's anything the governor or the House of Assembly can do. There is nothing they can do. There is no existing law creating any form of, there's no existing law as of today creating any governance framework for the local government in situations like this. And even if such provisions were to be in state law, I am very sure that that provision would have run in conflict with Section 7 of the Constitution, as well as the decision of the Supreme Court in Attorney General of the Federation versus Attorney General of the 36 states, and even other decisions that the Supreme Court has given in so many other cases. So as it stands today, there is nothing. Obviously, there is a constitutional lacuna, which is why I made the comment I made on the day the decision was given. There's a constitutional lacuna, so nobody can benefit from this decision as it stands today. Those that were removed by the Supreme Court on Friday cannot continue to hold on to their offices because they have been removed by the Supreme Court, and of course there is no more right of appeal against that decision to any other court of law in Nigeria. Of course, the Supreme Court is the final appellate court in Nigeria, and no more appeal, no more right of appeal is available. So it means they cannot benefit from that decision. And those who were removed from office before the election was conducted can also not benefit, in my opinion, from that decision, because there is nothing in the Supreme Court decision that said or ordered or directed that they should take the reins of power upon the dissolution and upon the nullification of the election of their successors. there's no such provision. So that creates a situation where we do not have a governance structure for our respective local government areas in Rivers State. If not for the current approach taken by the Attorney General of the Federation, by the federal government, that had wanted to stop the era of appointing caretaker committees, what the governor and the House Assembly would have been left with at this point would have been to appoint caretaker. To appoint caretaker committees. So the governor would have recommended under the existing law, because there are provisions for the appointment of caretaker committees in the Rivers State local government, existing Rivers State local government law. So the governor would have made recommendations to the House Assembly, and the House Assembly would have confirmed the appointment of the nominee, and they would have been sworn in. That would have been before. But as from July of 2024, that can no longer be done. So there's nothing the Rivers State House Assembly can do. For instance, they cannot make a law today that will run in conflict with the decision of the Supreme Court and Attorney General of the Federation and Attorney General of the 36 states. They cannot make make a law that will give them the power to create an artificial governance body for a local government council pending the conduct of election. Because as the Constitution has provided in Section 7, subsection 1, and in Attorney General of the Federation and Attorney General of the 36 states, and even so many other cases, APC and Enugu State Independent Electoral Commission, and so many other cases, the court has held that all the local government administration whose personnel emerge through the process of an election that command local government councils in Nigeria and be entitled to the share of the federation of the revenues, the federation of the federation account that belongs to local government councils. So any other set of persons put in that office that did not emerge through that are not products of a valid election will not be entitled to receive anything and will not be recognized by the Constitution and by the government when sharing revenues according to the 3 tiers of government. They won't be given. It will be taken that state is disobeyed. Because clearly, one of the reliefs granted by the Supreme Court in Attorney General of the Federation and the Attorney General of the 36 states, one of the reliefs granted by the Supreme Court was an order directing the federal government of Nigeria to withhold allocations to any state that did not put in place a democratically elected local government council. So the question is, what can the Rivers State House Assembly, what can the governor do? Are they going to put in there somebody or people who are not products of democratic elections? They cannot. If they do, what will be the implication? Number one, they would have been in breach of the Constitution. And number two, the federal government will not release to that contraption the revenues accruing to the local government councils in Rivers State, because that contraption will not be recognized by the Constitution. So there's nothing anybody can do other than to wait and then a local government. So the only option now is to expedite action. It's not to delay, it's to expedite action. So the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission should swing into action and release a new call, maybe a meeting of stakeholders, political parties and their representatives, NGOs and what have you. Hold a meeting, arrive at a timetable, release a new timetable, maybe 3 months timetable or what have you, and begin to set the stage for the democratic process of conducting elections into these local government councils. That's the only option. The earlier that is done, the lacuna that has been created by this Supreme Court judgment will be cured or closed.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Biiragbara. I do need to take calls from the listener. We truly appreciate your input. Have yourself a wonderful day, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. So it is safe to say that we're living in a hollow, right? We are literally in a dark place that the Constitution does not cover. And I know, as well as you do, that every now and then the Constitution is subject to amendment, right? As you go deeper, you dive deeper into the arms of life, really. You come to a point where the Constitution has not captured something, and then there's an amendment to help cover it. But now, local government elections voided by the Supreme Court, and there is nothing in the Constitution according to the legal practitioner, that provides a framework for what needs to be done at this point. I don't know if I should be happy that we're breaking a record. I don't know if I should be happy that we have become a reference point. Because however this is handled is definitely going to be quoted in the future for states that might find themselves in this position. And I'm thinking of all the things that came with the local government elections and the former chairman that eventually emerged. The 100 days in office, the implementations, the empowerment, the projects, the plans, the policies, and the controversies. There were some of those chairmen that taxi drivers were already protesting against. All of that is gone. Now, we cannot have a figurehead run the government at the local level except that person is elected through elections. So we're literally at the mercy of RISIEC. And RISIEC is at the mercy of funding because elections cost money. Now money is not coming like it used to. Now the House of Assembly, I guess, is already saying budget needs to be represented because you cannot spend at this point. What are you spending? The law says go and present the budget again for approval. So if you spend, where is that money coming from? So, oh my goodness. In the words of a philosopher, one that you might not like, who's currently in prison, R. Kelly, we are trapped in the closet. But I'd like to hear from you. What do you make of this situation, this political lacuna, this constitutional confusion, this, what else would I call it? I'm looking for something fancy and catchy. Anyways, I'll find it eventually. Gift calls from Yenugua. Good evening, Gift.
Good evening, Oracle Shinedu.
Good evening.
I love what your guest did, but it's like the research he carried out, he missed one part. And let me put to the public.
Are you a lawyer, Gift?
I have some evidence with me here.
Well, he has.
I follow up. All those documents are with me. And now I want to remind us and
hold on, Gift. Hold on, because as much as you have your opinion, I have my platform. What document do you have?
Yeah, I'm talking about Supreme Court judgment 2024 on the 11th of July.
Okay.
Supreme Court gave a judgment giving powers to state houses of assembly all over Nigeria to extend democratically elected local government chairmen. And that was what Chike Martins and Mewule did in his power as a speaker. So there is no lacuna.
Hold on.
Yes.
Gave them power to do what? To extend?
To extend democratically elected local government chairmen where the state government find it difficult or unable to conduct elections, because that was what happened in Rivers State. When the House of Assembly was calling on the governor, come and tell us, because the time of these persons will soon run out. That was why this election is now nullified, because they refused to follow that advice from the House of Assembly. And the House of Assembly went ahead and carried out that very extension. And Supreme Court affirmed it. I'm giving you dates. I said July 11. On the 11th of July 2024, Google the Supreme Court. So those persons are authentic chairmen. 6 months. That is what Supreme Court said. If they are able to go another 6 month extension, if you don't want to conduct and you play game, another 6 months.
Okay, so
that is how they will continue.
Gifts.
So we are extending.
Let us refer to those documents as well, since you have documents. I want you to listen carefully. In April 2024, Chidi Lloyd, alongside 20 former local government chairmen from Rivers State, filed a lawsuit at the Federal High Court in Abuja. They sought to extend their tenure beyond its expiration on June 16, based on the amendment to the local government law passed by a faction of the Rivers State House of Assembly. On January 17, Justice Omotosho dismissed the case, stating that the plaintiffs lacked the legal local standing to remain in office after their tenure had expired. Did you hear that?
I heard it loud and clear.
Now, hold on. After hearing it, did you understand it?
I am telling you, Supreme Court is...
Okay. Well, the Supreme Network has other plans. Jude calls from Omuma. Hello, Jude.
Yes, Sam. I have always said, and I repeat myself again, the problem we have is the judiciary.
I agree.
Now we are talking about the Supreme Court voiding the Rivers State local government election conducted last year. Supreme Court voiding that election. And they didn't even have in mind what is going to happen. The lawyer has said, and I want to ask the same question, is it automatic that since the elected local government are no longer recognized, automatically who takes their position? What happens to the staff of the local government? Does it mean that the local government, 23 local government councils in River State are no longer to be there? That's why I'm telling you, and the way I feel that is the judiciary. There should be an arrangement. Since it's not automatic, the election to replace the ones he has voided is not automatic. There should be a provision. And I hear the lawyer say that they say there should not be a vacuum. Did they not think before they made the pronouncement? So what do they expect us now to do in River State? The local government chairmen are gone. Who takes over? Election cannot be automatic to replace the position. Sam, if you have an answer, I am worried with the judiciary. There are a bunch of our problems.
Well, Jude, I don't have an answer, and I fear that I don't even want to have an answer. Even if I find one, right? I would pretend. I don't want to. I'll pretend not to see it. So, it is an arm of government, right? Of course, has all everything that comes with it. But you have to admit that following the judiciary in Nigeria is a full-time job, is an extreme sport, is an uphill task. It is confusing, right? And you do your best to the level of your intelligence to break down what you need to. But there's always something. And I've said this many times, as well as many experts, as long as we do not have a digitized judicial system where before I run to Abuja or Port Harcourt, Benue or Kano to file something, it shows that there are records stating that this case is already before another court. As long as we don't have that, we do not have an updated database, these kinds of things will continue to happen. Now look at us. We have president, we have governor, we don't have local government chairman. Not having it is one problem. We don't know what to do with that tier of government. What a time to be alive. What a time to be Nigerian. What a time to live and work in River State. And history will remember this time. I guess I'll tell my kids, listen, I was around when this happened. Matter of fact, I was on radio and I talked about it. Okay. What the Supreme Court ruling say about the issue of jurisdiction of the appellate court between Federal High Court that ruled on local government election, overturned it and authenticate. Are they saying the Federal High Court has jurisdiction over the issue of local government? Sonny is asking from Ajip. I don't know if I have issues with the lines. Some calls are dropping, but Okwando will be with me in a matter of seconds. And we're literally running out of time. And someone says, Gift is misquoting. Yeah, you don't have to be a prophet to see that. Okwando from Irebe. Good evening.
Good evening to you, the Oracle, Chinedu.
Good evening.
You see, I think with respect to this matter, the Supreme Court did not do well for annulling that election, and also for not trying to fill in the lacuna that this annulment has created.
Yeah.
They say that once a judgment is passed in the Supreme Court, it becomes a law. But why is it that these justices that oversaw this case fail to see that they have created a lacuna in accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, so that they will also make a pronouncement that can also help us to fill in this lacuna?
Nkwando, I wish I had more time with you. I apologize, but I have a break. Please stay with us.